Driving long haul, you see a lot of weird things on the road. Strange accidents, cars abandoned in the middle of nowhere, people walking along the highway miles from anything. You get used to it. You learn to keep moving, keep your head down, and not ask too many questions. Half of them you forget. The other half you tell at diners over bad coffee and cold eggs. But there's one story I don't tell. It was winter, 2021, and I was driving east on I-40, about an hour outside of Albuquerque. I had a long haul, carrying construction equipment to Oklahoma City. It was late, around 1 a.m., just me, the road, and the occasional 24-hour truck stop. No headlights in my mirrors, no streetlights, just the occasional reflective sign breaking up the darkness. I had the radio low, sipping from a half-empty can of Monster, trying to keep myself awake. The air was calm, the kind of night that makes you feel like the only person left on Earth. And then, boom, there it was. A pickup truck parked on the shoulder up ahead, hazard lights blinking in the dark. Normally, that wouldn't be anything unusual. Could be a breakdown, a flat tire, someone needing help. But as I got closer, something else caught my eye. The way the light from my high beams hit the pavement, there was a glint, like metal reflecting back at me. I eased off the gas. As the truck's hazard lights flickered, the glint became clearer. A line of spikes stretched across the road, barely visible in the darkness. That awful pit-in-the-stomach feeling took over. That wasn't an accident. Someone had put them there on purpose. Instinct kicked in. I tapped the brakes, eyes scanning for movement. The pickup's driver's side door was cracked open, but no one was inside. That was enough for me. I wasn't stopping. I yanked the wheel just enough to shift into the empty oncoming lane, clearing the spikes by inches. The moment my tires hit solid pavement again, movement flashed in my side mirror. Two figures bursting from the ditch beside the road, sprinting toward my truck. My foot slammed on the gas. One of them had something in his hand. I couldn't tell what it was, but he raised it like he was aiming at me. I expected to hear a gunshot, glass shattering, but nothing came. I flew past them, my trailer swaying slightly from the sudden acceleration. I checked my mirrors again. The figures had stopped running. Instead, they stood there, watching me, faces lost in shadow. The pickup truck still sat there, hazard lights blinking like some kind of sick lure. I kept my foot down until I was a solid 10 miles up the road. Then, and only then, did I finally suck in a breath. I pulled into the next truck stop I could find, heart still hammering against my ribs. The parking lot was mostly empty, just a few rigs parked for the night. I grabbed my phone with shaky hands and called the highway patrol. I told them everything. The pickup truck, the spikes, the men who ran at me. The dispatcher was calm, almost too calm, like she had heard it all before. "We'll send a unit to check it out," she said. "What's your current location?" I gave her the details, and she told me to stay put in case they needed more information. I sat there for a while, watching my mirrors, waiting for that truck to roll in after me. It didn't. About 20 minutes later, my phone rang. It was the same dispatcher. "We sent a unit out," she said. "The truck is gone. No sign of spikes either." I stared out at the empty highway. "You sure you checked the right spot?" There was a pause. "We checked. And there haven't been any similar reports from that stretch of highway." That made my skin crawl. "What do you mean?" "I mean, we've never had an incident like this out there. No road spikes, no ambushes, nothing." That didn't sit right, not after what I had just seen with my own eyes. "So you're telling me this was the first time?" Another pause. A little longer this time. As far as we know, yes. I didn't like that answer. I didn't like the hesitation in her voice. You need anything else from me? I asked, already knowing I wasn't going to get the reassurance I wanted. No, she said. But if you're heading east, stay alert. That was the last thing I wanted to hear. I let out a slow breath, staring out at the road beyond the truck stop parking lot. I sat there for a long time after that call ended, staring at the highway, thinking about what could have happened if I hadn't seen those spikes in time. If I had blown a tire, been forced to pull over, would they have just robbed me? Or was it something worse? I didn't want to know. The highway stretched ahead, dark and empty, just like it had been before. Only now, it didn't feel empty. It felt like something was waiting. And worse, whatever it was, it had picked that exact night to start. Eventually, I got back on the road. I finished my route, made my delivery, but I kept thinking about it. The way those men had sprinted toward my truck, the way they had just stood there after, watching me drive away, the way the truck was gone when the police arrived, like it had never been there at all. For weeks after that night, I kept my eyes peeled for anything unusual. Every time I passed another stranded vehicle, I tensed up, scanning for signs of another setup. Then, about a month later, I overheard a conversation at a rest stop diner. A couple of other truckers were talking about an ambush attempt on a different highway. The setup was almost identical. Spikes on the road, a fake breakdown, masked men lying in wait. But the driver in that case hadn't been as lucky. He stopped, thinking he could help. He got jumped. They took everything, including his truck. It was later found abandoned, miles away, stripped clean. No one ever caught the guys who did it. That conversation stuck with me. It made it clear that there were people out there waiting for an easy mark. Now, every time I see a car pulled over on a deserted highway, I slow down. Not to stop, but to check. Because out there, in the middle of nowhere, you don't always get a second chance. I'd been delivering pizzas for about 6 months by then. Not the best job in the world, but the money was all right, and tips were a nice bonus. The only part I really hated was the late-night shifts. There's something about driving through empty streets in the middle of nowhere that gets under your skin after a while. That night, I was heading home after my last drop-off. It was just after midnight, and I was dead tired. I had spent my entire shift crisscrossing Sacramento, and now all I wanted was my bed. I took the back roads home, quicker, less traffic, and honestly, it was just easier than dealing with the drunks on the main roads. About 10 minutes into the drive, I noticed headlights behind me. At first, I didn't think much of it. It was a quiet 2-lane road with barely any streetlights, so any car back there stood out. But something felt off about the way this one was moving. The car wasn't just behind me. It was too close. I tapped my brakes lightly, a polite back-off signal. Nothing. If anything, the driver moved in closer. All right, buddy. Road rage? Just go around me. I shifted into the right lane, expecting him to pass. Instead, he matched my speed. I shot a quick look in my mirror. His headlights were glaring, making it impossible to see inside. But I could feel the presence of whoever was behind the wheel. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel. Maybe it was just some impatient driver, someone being dumb. I pushed my foot down slightly on the gas, easing up to 55. He did the same. Still there. My pulse started picking up speed with the car. This wasn't normal. I reached for my phone, still sitting in the cup holder, but what would I even say? Hey, 911, someone's driving behind me? I tried to let it go. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe. He swerved. I barely had time to react before the car lurched into my lane, cutting me off. I jerked the wheel, my tires screaming as I swerved onto the shoulder. My heart slammed into my ribs. What the hell? I gasped, steadying the car. The driver didn't pull ahead. He just slowed down. Now he was in front of me, crawling along at 30 miles per hour. I needed to get out of there. I took a deep breath, forced myself to think. If I could get to a more populated area, I'd be fine. I'd lose him in traffic. I just needed to. He hit the brakes. Hard. I stomped on mine, tires screeching as I barely avoided slamming into him. My whole body lurched forward, seatbelt digging into my chest. The car just sat there. No movement. No flashers. Screw this. I threw the car into reverse, swerving into the opposite lane. The second I did, his headlights flashed on. Next thing I knew, he was coming right at me, full speed. I didn't think, I just reacted. I slammed on the gas, shooting forward. My tires skidded as I swerved onto a side road, the turn so sharp I almost lost control. The car followed. I felt my breath catch. Why wouldn't he stop? I floored it, squeezing the wheel so hard my fingers ached. The road twisted through empty farmland. No streetlights, no houses. Just endless darkness stretching ahead of me. And behind me, that car, still there. I could feel the adrenaline flooding my system, making my hands shake as I tried to keep the car steady. If I crashed, if I spun out, if my engine failed, I was alone. I looked in my mirror again, hoping, praying to see him turning off. Instead, he was gaining. I took another breath, trying to keep it together. Think. A turn was coming up. Left or right, it didn't matter. I yanked the wheel left. The car shot past me. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I had space. I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. I just drove, tearing through the back roads like my life depended on it. Maybe it did. I stayed on that path for another 20 minutes before I finally made it back to the main road. I was shaking, my hands clammy against the wheel. Then, the headlights appeared again, ahead of me. I almost stopped breathing. There it was, that same car, pulling into a driveway like nothing had happened. I slowed down just enough to see. The driver stepped out, just a regular guy, middle-aged, wearing a jacket. Not a monster, not some horror movie villain. But when he turned toward me, he smiled. A slow, knowing smile, like he had won. I didn't stick around. I hit the gas and got the hell out of there. I don't know why he did it. Maybe it was just some twisted game. Maybe he was looking for an easy target. But that night, I learned something. Some people, they just want to watch you panic. And I'll never forget the way he looked at me, like he was waiting for me to come back,